Former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you.
We're sitting here on Sunday about 9 hours after the U.S. Navy and Air Force attacked multiple sites in Iran, including the Fordo enrichment facility and Natanz and Isfahan. Also, 12 p.m. Israel, we are learning that the IDF recovered the bodies of 3 Israeli hostages from Gaza. We're going to talk about all that in our conversation. I do want to begin with that. I think we can even call it historic attack. The U.S. strikes Iran. Is the Iranian nuclear program done, gone, and buried?
Let me start by mentioning this rescue operation in Gaza. We still have 50 hostages. This is a top priority to bring them back home. It's not only their lives, it's not only their families. This is a Jewish value to bring back any prisoner, and this is a core value of the IDF. And I believe that we need to do anything that can be done in order to free them and bring them home, and this is possible. Now to the Iranian issue. Israel was conducting a very impressive operation during the last week. This operation is well known to me. It was, planned and exercised during my period. And actually, we changed the operation by the beginning of 23 and give much more gravity to the Air Force and the IDF in order to launch a very powerful operation. And the reason for that was because Iran was in the final stage. This is like a marathon runner entering the stadium after 42 kilometers and have few hundred meters to finish. And they were there. And
they were there for the final stage from actually producing a nuclear bomb. How far away? Weeks away? Months away?
Well, once they have enough fissile material to the level of 90%, and it is well known that the ballistic missiles can reach Israel. They were working very seriously about the weaponry system, how to create a bomb out of the fissile material. And they were moving forward. They were going to a very dangerous direction. Now, our intel is good, I would say maybe excellent, but it's not perfect. We wouldn't like to be in a situation that one of these ballistic missile will carry a nuclear weapon. Imagine that one of these carry a nuclear weapon. And by the way, they can reach Egypt, Turkey, and Greece, not only Israel. So the situation was very close to this line. And I would say that under what we call here in Israel, blue and white, Kachol Lavan, meaning, Israeli by itself, we achieved 70% of the goals of these operations. And we eliminate the scientists, which is the center of the knowledge. We hit all the facilities, not only Natanz, which is the major factory for fissile material through the centrifuges, but also the nuclear reactor in Iraq and some facilities in Isfahan and other places. But we were left with one point of gravity, Fordo, which is buried under the ground, few hundred feet. And for this purpose, we didn't have the right equipment. The combination of American jets and Israeli pilots is excellent. Create superiority all over, but we don't have all the different munition, and we definitely don't have all the different plans. Therefore, the order that the president gave was essential to accomplish this mission.
So that is exactly the question, because Fordo, the most advanced nuclear enrichment facility, ensconced deep within a mountain under rock and concrete. As we sit here after the first attack by the U.S., do you think that's done? Because a lot of experts are saying they're going to need another wave, at least 2 or 3 waves of these kinds of strikes for that to be completely buried and done with.
The ability of the GBU 57, the MOP,
bomb,
to penetrate the bomb that is dropped from the B2s is, I would say, something like 200 and maybe 250 feet. The meaning is that sometime you need to drill one after the other. Drill and then reiterate with another bomb on the same hole. And you can achieve the effect. But I believe that this shock will, move.
Destabilize the
Yes,
the
this shock will destabilize the whole facility, and it is gone. Anyhow, I think that we need to see it in a wider perspective, and I'll explain. First of all, we hit the scientists. This is very important if they want to create a weapon system to initiate the fissile material. Second, all the facilities all over. Centers of nuclear nuclear facilities that are all over Iran. But this is only inside Iran. Looking outside, the whole arena have been changed. They created Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis in order to create a war of attrition against Israel and eventually, under their scope, to eliminate Israel. And the meaning that is that everything is changed. So if you took an engineer, he will calculate the periods and get to some years. If you look on the situation on the Middle East, I don't think that they will go into a nuclear program again in the coming years. And I believe that this is not something that will be done by this present leader.
Let's look at what can be the Iranian reaction. We already saw salvo over Israel this morning, pretty intense one as well. They're threatening American targets. They're threatening Israel. The retaliation can come still from Hezbollah, from the Houthis. How do you assess the risks of what can happen now after the first American strike?
First of all, Iran will make a grave mistake if they will try to hit America or American interests. The meaning will be that they will go into a full-scale war with America. This is like committing suicide by Iran. I don't think they will do it. It's not in their interest, one. Second, we knew in the very beginning that the only effective tool, weapon, that Iran has is the ballistic missiles. Therefore, when we order the operation on October 24, we wanted to achieve 2 goals. One is to degrade the amount of production in the Iranian side, and we succeeded. We, I would say, moved them from producing 2 missiles a day into 1 missile a week. This is 7% or something like that. So it's a limited arsenal that they have. Let's say 2,000 ballistic missiles or so in the beginning. The second issue was to create a corridor that eventually will bring us to an air superiority over Iran. And the situation is different from the Iranian concept. They were thinking that they will shoot at us and we cannot retaliate because we are very short with long-range munition, no matter what it is. Instead of that, we have the full capacity of the Israeli Air Force that is able to reach any point in Iran with the stand-in weapons, meaning 2,000-pound bombs and even 1,500. And each one of these bombs is very precise. So right now, in every day, Iran is losing and Israel is gaining. So when they hit us, and unfortunately civilians are being hit, and the Israeli public had shown a great resilience and strength during this war, and I salute them for that and for their discipline. But when we are being hit by Iran, in every single day, they lose dozens of facilities, camps, bases, and prominent figures. And the meaning is that in every day that the war is extended, we postpone the ability for the next program in years. And therefore, time is working for us and not against us.
How does this end? I mean, you're describing something that can last for another, days, weeks? I mean, how long? What does the Israeli public need to be prepared for?
The second phase of the so-called the war against the logistics is to paralyze and, if possible, to eliminate all their launchers. They started this war.
The missile launchers.
The missile launchers. They started this war with 20 or 2,500 ballistic missiles and 400 launchers. Right now, I think it was degraded, and the amount of launchers, of missile launchers, is something like 200 and less than that. Very soon, it will be very difficult for the Iranians to launch against Israel. And if you follow the graph, they started with salvos that possess dozens of missiles every night. And you were in the studio and you were watching it, and at home, as all of us. Right now, it's if every salvo consists of a few ballistic missiles, and we have their superiority, their dominance over those places. And by the way, if they will try to shoot the United States or the United States allies, they will have another business with somebody who is very powerful. Because the United States can possess few squadrons to avoid missile launching above Iran in any given period of time. I mean, they can stay with it for weeks, because you have the carriers and you have the bases around Iran. Therefore, eventually, if you look at the situation, Iran will be exhausted much before Israel will have to stop. Therefore, I believe that time is working for us and there will be no second chance. We need to act decisively and to go after every target in Iran in order to secure not only this generation, but the next generation against these evil forces.
I mean, you're talking about the resilience of the Israeli public. I think you're completely right. It's been a remarkable thing to see how Israelis are holding up, but it's also been a war inside a war, right? They've been going through this since October 7th. Really, how long do you think the public could hold this up? Is it a matter of days? Is it a matter of weeks?
I think that the Israeli public understand very well the necessity of this action, and they understand that we need to support the IDF, the Mossad, the government in order to go forward and to destroy it once and for all. Otherwise, it will be coming again within 20 years or 50 years. We need to destroy it and to make sure that the Iranians will not have the appetite to create a nuclear weapon ever.
Do you think, obviously what we're seeing now is a destabilization of the current Iranian leadership. This chaos can lead to all sorts of things, but do you think that there is really a chance of a regime change, like the Israeli government is pretty clearly saying that is what Israel wants?
Well, I would like it to happen. Because I think it symbolizes a new direction for the Middle East, and it will, I would say, seal the relations between Israel and the Sunni world under the leadership of America. This is a new path. But our campaign is not the tool to change a regime. It can create the conditions for the 90 million Iranians who are on the ground. And these 90 million people have to decide who is their leadership. And therefore, if they will decide that they want to take the future in their hands, that's one story. We give them the conditions. But I don't think you should expect that the military action by itself will create a revolution.
was not a consensus in the United States, the decision to strike Iran. It wasn't even consensus within the president's party, the Republican Party. Are you concerned that there will be voices in the U.S. saying Israel dragged the United States into another war in the Middle East?
The President of the United States was elected by the majority of the American people, and he served American interest and American goals. In this specific issue, the American goals are aligned with the Israeli goals, and let me say it humbly, with the regional and the global goals. We need to make sure that Iran, a country that activated terror for the last 45 years, including around Israel, including against America. Let me remind you that 40 years ago, Hezbollah killed 241 American Marines under the directions of Iran. They blew off embassies all over the world. They broke the American sailors on their knees on American vessels. They hit American planes and American ships. These are the Iranians. I'm not speaking about the hostages that they were holding for a year in Tehran. So they are not your friends. They are your enemies. And I'm speaking to the American public. They are your enemies. And they say it time and again. You know, on every missile, it is written, death to Israel or death to America, or both of them. For them, you are America. You are the big Satan. And we, Israel, we are the small Satan. So
you talked about the operation, what started this, the Israeli operation in Iran. The plan had been in the works, a good portion of it with your involvement. Did any of it honestly surprise you on any level? I know that you were in with the planners, but the remarkable execution of it, were you surprised by it?
Let me put it this way. On September, we eliminate Hezbollah, basically.
September 2024.
September 2024, last September. On October, we hit the missile production and we hit the air defense and created the corridor.
In Iran,
In Iran. We needed one last condition, and this was I would say, the understanding and the approval of the United States, because it's difficult to work without the United States, not only for logistics and not only for power projection, but also in order to fly over Iraq, to cooperate on intel, to rescue, if needed, Israeli pilots, and definitely for defense. I mean, we need them to defense. All this was drawn between myself and Secretary Austin in the war. And then, when we got the fourth condition, America, I think that we launched the operation, and we knew in the very beginning that first of all, we will go and hunt the leadership of the military organization, the army and the Revolutionary Guard. And immediately or simultaneously with it, we will go after the scientists, because these are what we call TCT, time critical targets. And this was achieved by the IDF above and beyond. Above and beyond. Then, when I heard that we hit Natanz, I knew what is the system, I knew what is the plan, and no matter what the Iranians or even Gaussi are saying, if we accomplish the plan, the program that we put on the table years before that, this will finish the operation. But when you see I would say, the way that the IDF was able to accelerate by using the enterprise, the success that we made, this is very, very remarkable, because right now we have air dominance all over Iran. We attack not only in West Iran, not only in Central Iran, but also in East Iran. This is unbelievable, and the Iranians has nothing to do against it. Basically, we fly over Tehran right now, similar as we flew over Beirut a year ago.
Which is, as you say, it's a remarkable thing that I think many people would observe that, because it means what? They have absolutely no aerial defense, no Air Force, no answer to that, to the fact that the Israeli Air Force basically owns the skies over Iran.
I knew it, in advance. But after the operation in April, when we launched few missiles and hit the S-300 near Isfahan, and later on, after the operation on last October 26, I understood very well that the Iranians have very little to do against Israel beside ballistic missiles. And for this purpose, we shape everything. And remember, this is only tactical and operations, because the goal is strategic. The goal is their nuclear facilities and nuclear production. But in order to achieve this goal, we needed to make sure that we have dominance all over. Let me add one very important point. The deterrence that Israel achieved against Iran, and that was projected all over the region, is remarkable, because in the first week we were doing it by ourselves and we were succeeding. We didn't need the Americans to rescue Israel. It was to accomplish a very important phase that we cannot achieve by ourselves completely.
I do want to pick up on something you said a few minutes earlier. You said that everything essentially was put in place by October 2024 in this plan, but you needed the Americans' cooperation, the U.S. cooperation. Now, what I read into that is that November is the election of a new president. And should I then understand that what you're saying is that the Biden administration didn't give Israel the go-ahead to do this, and the Trump administration did?
No, I didn't say that, because there were preconditions, and they were achieved just on September and October. Let me remind you the sequence. On September 23rd, we dismantle all the missiles. September 27, we eliminate Nasrallah and all the others. And basically, there wasn't an active army under the wings of Hezbollah. Few days later, when we maneuver into South Lebanon, the Iranians were shooting 200 ballistic missiles. That was October 1st. And it took me, together with Secretary Lloyd Austin, a few weeks to establish the coalition. We needed the support with Aegis ship, with THAAD missiles, and many, many other relevant components into this equation. And when we strike back on October 26, we achieve everything. I can tell you the story because it's an interesting story by itself. Lloyd Austin, who I respect very much, was already, I would say, fed up a little with my behavior, because we decided we go and hit and eliminate our enemies. And that's what happened with Hania. We didn't consult about it. That's what happened with
He was quoted as saying things I won't say on the podcast because my mother is listening, but in response to you saying that you eliminated, that Israel eliminated Nasrallah.
He called me.
Yes.
After the issue with Hania, and say, what are you doing? And I said, we are killing our enemies because they want to kill us. And he accepted, and we created the second coalition. I gave him a call, the issue of eliminating Nasrallah. I gave him a call 15 minutes in advance. And I said, we are going to eliminate Nasrallah. And the Prime Minister was in the United Nations. And I'm sitting in the headquarters under the ground. And he said, when? And I said, in 15 minutes. So he was very disappointed. And he said, you can lead to a regional war. And I said to him, with all the respect, this figure, Nasrallah, is responsible for the death of thousands of Israelis and hundreds of Americans. You should support it. And he and the president supported it. So when we finish with the 200 ballistic missiles salvo that was launched by Iran on October 1st, he called me And he said, what are you going to do? And I said, we are going to retaliate severely against them. First, because of their intentions. Second, because of the damage they created. Thanks God there were no casualties. And he said, what's going to happen? And I said to him, you know, if I speak to you frankly and I listen what's going on in the cabinet, there will be no oil and gas facilities in Iran very soon. And he said this can lead to a regional war and even more than that. And I said, if we go together and you help me to do something together, I'm sure that the Prime Minister and myself can convince the cabinet. And he said, what do you need? I said, I need 5 things. One, we need the ability to fly over Iraq. Second, we need air defense, ballistic missile to intercept the ballistic missiles of Iran with the support of America. Third, we need specific intel, especially for satellites, because we don't have this ability, but in all the rest we are pretty good. Fourth, if an Israeli pilot is grounded by the Iranians, we need to make sure that you help us to rescue him. And the fifth condition was we needed American tankers to refill him on the air. He came to me very soon after that, after consulting with the president, and said to me, all the 4 first, it's fine, but the 5th one cannot be matched because it will be a direct involvement of America in the operation. And basically with these conditions, I went to the Prime Minister, I spoke to him 4 eyes, and we concluded, and that was the direction that we paved together in the cabinet, and eventually the goal was consist of these 3 operations. So a week after that, I was fired.
Yes.
So
The same night Donald Trump was elected.
Yes. So the fetch to continue wasn't there. And as you know, a week after that, the president was elected. But I want to make sure that I'm loud and clear about the bold and courageous decisions that President Trump took. He understood the situation. He understood that America can play a role, essential role. He gave them a chance to negotiate, and eventually, when they refused time and again, he did it with the military power. And I think that Israel created the best conditions possible, because everything was done beside this precise operation that American unique military capabilities were needed for.
Are you concerned that this bold and brave decision by the United States president might lead to, in the words of Lloyd Austin's concerns to you, might lead to a regional war?
I don't think so. Let's try to evaluate the situation. First of all, you need to remember that most of the Muslim world is a Sunni world. 1.5 billion people or so, rather than 130 million Shias that are basically located around Iran and Iraq, basically 100 million of them. Second, what Israel did and what America accomplished is achieving peace by strength. This is very important in this region. I'm almost 50 years around these issues since I was a young soldier. And I learned one lesson. The lower you bring your enemy in the battlefield, the longer the period of quiet you will get. And, you can take, for instance, what happened in 1973. The Egyptians and the Syrians opened a war by surprise. This war was ended 101 kilometers away from Cairo, not from Tel Aviv. That was the beginning of the peace process between Egypt and Israel, because the Egyptians understood that there is no way to defeat Israel militarily. Therefore, they chose another direction, and thanks God we have a long-lasting peace with Egypt and later on with Jordan. So I think that this demonstration was essential to stabilize the situation in the region. And I believe that if you look on the Iranians' options, look what is the situation. First of all, no scientists, no nuclear facilities. Second, very inexperienced leadership. Very old and I would say frustrating leader. And this is only Iran. Look on the protective shells that they were building during the last 40 years. There is no Hezbollah, not effective Hezbollah. They cannot launch missiles against Israel. And if they will do it, they will pay a dear price. Very difficult to penetrate into Israel. And this is the situation in Syria and with Hamas. So they started the war against us and brought Israel to a very low point. Under the leadership of Iran, Hamas and later on Hezbollah were operating against Israel, against Israeli citizens, launching and hitting and killing and all these brutal actions. And they were financed by Iran. And the know-how came from Iran. Training came from Iran. Intel came from Iran. Everything was directed from Iran. All of a sudden, we cut those arms of this octopus, Hamas, Hezbollah, and later on, we hit the Houthis and the Syrians. Now we hit the Iranian regime and dismantled their nuclear facilities all over. I think that they will have to reevaluate everything that they are doing, and it won't be an easy or I would say a short sequence. It will take years. It won't be done in the time of this supreme leader.
We're talking, most of our conversation obviously turns to Iran, but the war in Gaza has been continued, has been happening for 625 days. How does all of this fit into what is happening in Gaza, and perhaps does it bring that war closer to an end, in your opinion?
We had 5 declared goals in Gaza. I put them on the table in the first day, and they were adopted by the cabinet a few days later. 3 of them have been achieved. We dismantled Hamas formations. There is no such a thing as Hamas division, that the commander division that attack us on October 7, and no battalions and stuff like that. Second, Sinwar, Hania, and all the others. Third, we created the flexibility to protect ourselves in any way in Gaza. Maneuvering, Air Force, whatever we need. We stayed with 2 goals that haven't been achieved. One is to free the hostages, and the second one is to replace Hamas with an alternative. These 2 issues have to be done by a political decision. It's not the military power, it's not enough. This is the difference between defeating your enemy and create a victory. So in order to create a victory, we need to accomplish these goals. Now there is only one order to achieve them. First, bring the hostages, and then continue to destroy Hamas. If you go the other way, there will be no one to bring back home. Therefore, the government of Israel will be more flexible after eliminating the Iranian capabilities, because it will bring all of us together and give some backwind to the idea. And in this situation, we can accomplish the 4th condition, which is to bring back the hostages on a deal, because it's next to impossible to rescue all of them in a military operations, and we need to do it. This is, as I said, a value and a symbol, and a life of these dear people. And after that, we will have a goal to replace Hamas and to destroy whatever is needed from this terror organization. And I think we will do it in the future.
I'm sure you see that the war between Israel and Gaza looks differently when seen from abroad than it does in here in Israel. You have been issued an arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court. Does that affect your life in any way? Do you think that warrant will be rescinded at some point? Does it, how do you react to that decision even? It's from November of 2024.
I've seen in my own eyes the dead kids on the battlefield in the Israeli side on October 8th. And I have seen the prices. And I was in the details of the intel, and I know what happened to our women and elderly. So let me say to you something personally. I'm a son of Holocaust survivors. For me, never again is not just a commitment, it's a manual. I'm working according to it. And to your question, I'm very proud to be accused for defending the state of Israel. I'm very proud of that, and I will keep doing it as I did in the last 48 years. And I believe that this is a goal. And by the way, I'm not speaking only on behalf of myself. This is the common understanding in the Israeli side. And as far as I can fly and see my grandkids in America and stay in the safe place that calls Israel, I'm satisfied.
What do you say to Ehud Olmert, former prime minister, who says that Israel is committing war crimes in Gaza? What would be your answer to him?
Say that first of all is wrong. Is not in the details. And the second thing, Israel never target civilians in purpose. All the goals, all the targets that we hit are legitimate according to the international law. Unfortunately, in Gaza, if you want to see the headquarters, look for the hospital. If you want to see the munition storage, look for the school. That's the problem. This was created for many years under...
The future of Gaza, as you see it, is some sort of a Palestinian Authority coming in there?
There are only three options to the day after. An idiom that I put in the very first days and turned to be very popular. One is the control of Hamas. This is impossible, won't happen. Second, Israel control Gaza. This is almost as bad as Hamas controlling Gaza. Nothing good will come out of it. Military occupation. The third option is somebody else. Well, I was looking for volunteers all over the world. I didn't find. The only option is Palestinians who are not Hamas. There are many of them. You see their representative when they demonstrate. If you see 1,000 people, they represent 1 million. Because it's you need to be very brave in order to demonstrate in Gaza against Hamas. So eventually, the Palestinians need to control themselves and to behave in a different way. Otherwise, they will finish like Hamas and all the others. So all in all, although we are in very difficult times, I'm optimistic, not only regarding Gaza, but also regarding to the region. After we dismantle the Iranian nuclear capabilities and Hezbollah and Syria and Hamas, I think that brings us to a different future. And under the leadership of America and the president, we can pave the way to another Abraham Accord agreement with Saudi and maybe with other countries.
The year and a month that you were defense minister and the war in Gaza, when you look back at it and you see the criticism even from Israel's friends, anything you would have done differently as defense minister in that war, anything that has to do with humanitarian aid or the population or strikes by the military, anything?
I think that what the military establishment and the defense establishment was doing was taking the right actions. But all in all, I think that the accumulate vector need to be adjusted. And it is well known that I had a lot of discussions and even collisions with some of my colleagues in the cabinet because I didn't accept their ideas. But I was concentrating on the war itself. I think that giving the civil population everything that can be given is essential. But Gaza is very different from all the other places that the civil population is involved. First of all, because in Gaza war, we had hundreds of hostages. This is a whole different story. Second, unlike Mosul or Fallujah or even Kosovo or Mogadishu, the population have nowhere to go to. The Egyptian blocked the border and they stay there. This is a whole different story because, if you fight against places that were deserted by the population, that terrorists fight you, you will find a solution. We find them. We are fighting under the ground and above the ground almost 2 years. But if you have many, many civilians in the region, you need to decide what you are doing. And it was clear that we are going to eliminate Hamas as a military organization, and we will take the best care we can take in order, not to harm the population. But in the battlefield, a lot is happening. And unfortunately, Israeli soldiers and Israeli civilians were hit by so-called friendly fire. This is, of course, something we don't have to prove that we didn't want. Things happen in the battlefield.
Yeah. Former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, thank you so much for talking to us today.